Welcome to Dan's Crypto Adventures. Today is the continuation of a series. This series is looking at building an enclosure for some GPU mining rigs. And so this is the second video, and in this one we're going to be building the enclosure itself. So there's a few reasons to do that. One is to control the heat of the rigs. Also the heat in my basement. It gets quite hot down here. Right now it's pretty hot down here, and it shouldn't be because we are in the basement. Then also dust. All of the air that comes into the rig will be filtered, and here's an example of why. Here's one of my rigs, and not sure how well this will show up on the video, but you can see how dirty it is. It's pretty filthy, and that's after about a month. I do blow these off with air about once a month, so you can see how dirty they get. And that one's kind of the middle of my basement. And if we go over here to the side to where my other one is currently sitting, again, they're just filthy. So I'm hoping the enclosure will help a lot with the heat and the dust. So here's a quick look at the finished product. All right, and so the rest of the video is going to be the build video. At the end, I will show some more pictures and some longer shots of what it looks like. So thank you, and here's the rest of the video. So I've got the framing complete, and I thought that'd be a great time to show you guys kind of the layout and the plan and kind of how I've put everything together. And so here is the basic frame that is in place. So down here I've got 4x4s laying on the ground on the concrete. There's a knot attached to the concrete. I have water issues here where we get really heavy rains. Water actually comes up from under the concrete. Through the cracks and things, and so I didn't want that coming under the miner. I also used 4x4 down here. There's two reasons I did that. One is simply that's just what I had. I had some and don't really have any other use for it, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to use it. And then also a few places I've put some areas where if there is water, it can run through and get out. And then also if water does get in there, it has a way to dry out a little bit. So having that 4x4 allowed me to do that. And then I have a 2x4 on each front corner going up, and they are braced to the structure. And then in the back here on this side, I have a 2x6. And a 2x6 was always my intent. And the reason is the overall dimensions outside to outside is about 52 inches. And so if you put a 2x6 on the corners like I have it, and you buy an 8-foot shelf that goes inside to cut it in half, you 4 feet, a 4-foot shelf would fit in there, and you could have the standards on the 2x6, and it could reach across. So that's the reason I wanted to have 2x6s on the back. And so I did put a 2x6 on that side, and I did not put a 2x6 on this side simply because I didn't have another one. And so that right there is a 2x10. Again, that's just kind of what I had laying around. Kind of a waste of a 2x10, but yeah, whatever. And again, those are braced off to the back to the structure above as well. And then, so to show you guys a little bit, I'm going to have a piece of plywood that kind of comes right here and goes all the way up and then all the way across. So that'll fill in the entire back. I also have one on the side, on the outside of this, and on the other side, and then I'm hoping the whole front will be doors. And so these 2x4s in the front, I took my time to make sure those are really straight 2x4s, and make sure they're plumb and square to everything else. So hopefully I can have a door that goes all the way across. It might be kind of a right and left side of the door. On the inside, my intention is to do a shelving system. So I'm going to have standers, one on each side. I might have a stander in the middle. It could attach to the plywood that goes across the back, and so this will support a 16-inch shelf. So I got plenty of room for that. My mining rigs I have that are already built, I could put those frames straight in here, just like they are, and it would work. But they're still going to sit on shelving. For the filter, I have a 20 by 12, and so that will fit one on each side right here. So again, I did dimension this out so that it would fit in there. And then I have my bottom piece of plywood already cut. It fits in there great. It lays right in there, screw it straight down, and the bottom is done. I used a thin plywood for that. I think it's just 3/8 because there's going to be no weight on it. All the weight's going to be on the standards on the back. So they're going to be going to, all the weight's going to be going to the 2x6 there, the 2x10 over there. And then some weight will be on the front 2x4s where the doors connect. So the bottom blade doesn't matter. So I cut out the bottom there. I cut out an additional piece, a thicker piece of plywood, the exact same shape. And that will be the top, which will go up here somewhere. I don't know exactly the height of that yet, because I'm gonna have the top piece and a fan and some sort of a box that converts to 3 2x6 flexible duct. So I don't know how much room that's going to require to make kind of that turn, so that it can go out my exhaust vent hoods right over there. So I want it to be as high as possible, but I need to have room for all that stuff kind of on top. So I'm kind of waiting to get the top pieces and all that put together, and then I'll kind of figure out what height to do it. So that's kind of where I am now. I do have, just to show you, I do have the top all cut out right here with the circle in it, so that's where the fan will fit. And then my intent, I've already made the box, is this box will sit on top like this with a fan inside of there. And then I'll have another piece of plywood over the top, and then I'll have my three 6-inch pieces of duct that come off the top of this box. So this is kind of the thing that I'm working on building right now, and then I'll put all this into place once I get it all sized and fitted correctly. So that's where I stand. So I think it's coming together pretty well. So I'll check in a little bit once I get a little further along. Alright, so while I'm over here, let's show you some dimensions of what we got here. I'm doing this one-handed, so it might be a little tricky. But so here's what I've got. So for the side, outside to outside, I've got 24 inches. So that leaves inside, I have about 21 1/4. So that gives me enough room for the 20-inch filter. Also plenty of room for the standard and the 16-inch shelf. The length outside to outside is 52. And then I don't know yet what the height will be. That depends a little bit on the contraption on top. And I'm going to end up with a 4-foot shelf. So again, the reason I used a 2x6 on the sides is so I could buy an 8-foot shelf from Lowe's or Home Depot or whatever, cut it in half, and then it can fit in here, perfectly fine. So right there's 4 foot, and then I can have a standard right on that 2x6 on each side that holds up those shelves. So I think sized really well. I think it'll be good. I wanted to make it as compact as possible, just so that I want to control the air, and I just want to keep everything controlled and as tight as possible. So I just wanted to make everything as tight together as I could, and the most compact I feel like the better. And also just in my house too. The less room it takes up, the better. So all right, check in a little bit. All right, so now we have I have finished the siding and around the outside of it, and then some of the ceiling for it. So let's show you what that looks like. So I've got the 3 sides on. I've not started the door at all. I'm still kind of thinking that through, and that'll probably be the last thing that I do anyway. But I do have the top in. So here's the top layer, and then the supports to go around to support it. And then I've set the fan into place. Right now it's just sitting there. And so look underneath, I cut a hole so that it fits in there. And then we're going to have a box on top of that. So let me grab that and put it on. So this isn't lined up perfectly, but this will kind of show what it's going to look like. So I've got this box here that go on top. Then on top of that, I have my 3 6-inch pieces of duct coming out. And then I'll have a 90 that'll turn right here. And then it'll connect. There's 2 6-inch ducts right there, and then 1 right there. And so that's kind of how it's going to sit here all together. I've also started going around on the inside and caulking. So the inside, all of these seams in here, I've started caulking just with a clear silicone. Nothing too fancy. Again, I just want to control the air. I want to control what air comes in and what air goes out. So I decided to caulk all of those seams. The box here on top, this is kind of what it looks like. Actually, let me get that. I'll get it down and give you a better look. Alright, so here's that box that was sitting on top. So I first built, the frame going all around 4 sides, and then cut out the plywood to fit on it, and then attached these guys to it. The inside of this looks like so. Now normally you just bend over these little tabs and those kind of clamp on to whatever the material is, but these are intended to hook to ductwork, metal ductwork, which is really thin, and so this plywood's kind of thicker, so it really didn't hold very well. So I actually went around and put in, you might not be able to see it, but there's some sheet metal screws. I put about 4 in each. So I put those in it. I try to space those, evenly around there so that the air from the fan would go in those as evenly as possible. And then again, I went around this and caulked, all around these edges right here. I didn't take the time to do a super good job at it. I didn't smooth my finger or anything. The only purpose here is to keep the air out, not to look pretty. So I'm going to keep on building this, and then I'll show you guys once I get a little further down the road. Alright, so now I've finished the enclosure, so I wanted to show you guys some of the details and show you how I put it together. So the first thing I'm going to show you is the filters, which is on the sides. And so there's one here on this side, and there's also one on this side. Alright, there's a little dark on this side, might be harder to see. So let's look at the one over here. And so what I did here is I'm using a 12 by 20 inch filter, just 1 inch thick. You can get these about anywhere. Any hardware store is going to have these, big box store, anything like that will carry it. And so there's going to be one of these on each side. Now I did make a mistake when I was doing these. That's why you see this little filler piece here. I held up my filter and made a dot on each corner and then cut it out. And that was the mistake. The hole needs to be smaller than the filter itself, otherwise the filter would just fall inside. So that was kind of a stupid mistake, but it happens. So I had to use a little piece here to kind of fill it in. So again, the hole is smaller than the filter itself, so it doesn't get sucked inside of it. And then the way I attach the filters is I just use a simple 2x4, cut it in that kind of a shape right there. I did kind of use the filter itself as a guide to get kind of the dimensions right. It did take a few times to get that piece cut right, but then once I got it, I cut a couple of full-length 2x4s to that dimension, so then I could use that to kind of make the frame here. And so the way the filter goes in is it simply slides in from the top. It is a little hard to do that one-handed, but it slides in like so. Yes, two-handed is much easier. So there we go. So it slides in like that. So there'll be one on this side and on the other side. So pretty happy with that. I think that works well. It is a little tight getting it in there, but that's fine. I think that'll help control the airflow a little better. That'll force it to seal itself around the edges and force the air to go through the filter as opposed to around it. So that's how I did that. So again, to show you guys the kind of upper kind of box here where the fan is inside there, it blows up. I do have the ductwork up here. It is all connected and runs outside. It's hard to see, I know, but there's 3 6-inch ducts right there that go outside. I use these L brackets. Let's go over here to this one. Use these L brackets like that, 2 on each side to hold it down. And then once I did attach, I did go around and use clear silicone at all the intersections. So I've gone all the way around and used this. Most of it's on the inside, but a couple places like that are on the outside. And then let's get to the doors. So I'll give you an overall view of the doors. So there's what the front of it looks like. So I had the doors. I used a 3/4 inch birch plywood for the doors. Yes, that's probably overkill, but I wanted something that's going to be really stable and wasn't going to settle over time or warp over time. So yeah, I did spend a little bit extra to kind of get that. And to attach those, I just used normal hinges. I did 3 on each side. Again, probably overkill, but it works great. And then I did want the windows that you can see in these. So there's the window. I just used plexiglass. And plexiglass was actually kind of hard to work with. I'm not sure if I'm just not good at it or if it's just the nature of material, or if my jigsaw sucks. Could be all those though. So basically I just cut a piece of, got one piece of plexiglass, cut it in half. So I had enough for one on each side. And then I just put a bead of silicone around it and then screwed it in, and it, I'm not sure you can see on the video, but it kind of squished the silicone around, so it is sealed all the way around. So actually I think the window looks great actually. So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out. It does look terrible if you look at the detail on the inside of how it's cut. But again, that was my first time cutting plexiglass, so all in all I think it turned out fine. And then I went around and put some foam, tape here to seal it so when the door is closed. Again, trying to seal it so that all of the air goes through the filters and as little air as possible goes around in little cracks and crevices. I'm sure some's going to come in those areas, but I want it to be as little as possible. And so the next thing was kind of the latches. How do I keep these doors closed? And I've kind of done two methods on here. One I like, one I don't like, so I'll probably at some point change those. But for now it works. It took me a while to kind of figure out how to do these. I had to think about it quite a bit about what would work. So on the top here, on the doors, I put this kind of piece right here so that when it closes it overlaps. So that in order to, see, I'll show you on the top here, so it kind of overlaps like so. And that way, if I can have something push against this, closed, it'll really hold everything together. And so what I did on this one is I got this little handle here, kind of mounted it, and then I have just kind of a wedge shaped piece here that I simply slide in from the top, and that holds it really well. On the bottom, I went a different route, which actually I like better. Let me open the top so we can see it. So on the bottom I mounted a couple of pieces of wood. I used a 2x4 to make this piece. And then this is actually cut on an angle right there. So it's mounted there. And then when I close the doors, close that one first. And then this one. And then I have this piece of wood right here that spins around and kind of latches on there. And the reason that piece of wood is angled is so that the more I spin this, the tighter it gets. So it's a way to kind of compress the door tighter. Because if I have new foam around it, it could be thicker. You don't need to close this as far to seal it up. As it gets older, you might need to close it more. I know this looks ridiculous right here. The reason for that is the bolt that goes through here, I only had, I think it's 3" I think. And so if I put the whole thing in there, it stuck out the back, and so it would hit this piece of wood back here. So I had to do this just to hold that out. So when I go to the hardware store tomorrow, I'll get a shorter one and take all these washers off. I know that looks kind of crazy, but just kind of using using what I had laying around. So it works. So again, I'll give you guys an overview of the enclosure and how it looks. So here it is, kind of walk down the stairs. This is the view that I get. And this is the other side, very same thing on both sides. Filter there at the bottom. Goes out the back there. So yeah, so there's the enclosure. So I'm actually extremely happy with it. This is kind of a big step on getting this put together, obviously. So next things are the electrical, the networking, and then turning it on, the fan on, and seeing kind of what happens, seeing how it works. Also the shelving inside, I got to do that as well. So I'll do a video on those very soon and get that edited and put that out there. So thank you for watching. As always, please, if you did like this video, please give me a like and a subscribe. I would appreciate it. So thank y'all. See you on the next video.